Still not green. There it is. Hi. Mud.
Good afternoon. The time is now 4 o'clock. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education work session for Monday, March 24th, 2025 will please come to order. Let's go around the table for introductions, and we will start from my right.
Heidi Cater.
Sheila Pryor.
Dan Ginestra.
Paras Bhinde.
Valentina Ayers.
Sarah Johansson.
Chase Anderson.
And I am Milind Sahoni. Thank you and welcome everyone. What a beautiful day. March is here. Spring is here, I guess, and we're slowly marching towards summer. As a reminder, the board does not waste any time, vote on any item on the work session. This afternoon, we have 2 items on the agenda. Before we start with the agenda items, there are a couple of things I wanted to bring up. On Friday in the agenda, we had posted something about human resources update from Dave Lutz with regard to the staff. That has been postponed. It will come up very soon in front of the board, but not today. So I just wanted to mention that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the cell phone policy 524.5, which we started discussing, or we took up for the first reading in the last board meeting. And there were some concerns that some of the board members brought up. And we said that we would probably bring it up for a discussion at the work session today. And I would like Chase to give us an update on what's going on with that. So,
Yeah, with the first item that you mentioned, Mr. Chair, thank you for bringing that up. We were going to have just a general staffing process update to give the board an update on where the HR team and principals are at in regard to staffing for the upcoming school year. It ended up that didn't work out for us today, so that's why that is not on the agenda today. And then with the cell phone policy, at the last regular school board meeting, we presented that. There was quite a lot of discussion about it. And I think several members of the board have expressed their interest in focusing on consistency across the levels. So for example, all 9 elementary schools having a similar comparable set of protocols and operations for implementing the cell phone policy, and also to extend to that with the 3 middle schools doing that as well. So we had conversation about bringing it up again and having more discussion about it, maybe even having some middle school principals engage and share with us, but we've decided that we'll be able to move forward. It'll be our plan to bring that policy back at the April 14th meeting. And at that time, I'll provide updates on what the planned operational components are, expectations are for next fall. So as the board knows, we've also heard from a number of parents, community residents in regard to that same level of striving for similarity between the 3 middle schools. So we've heard that input, and I'll be working closely with the principals prior to April 14th, and we'll bring you probably that policy that was in its final form from, it was the MSBA model policy, and we'll make some references to what we might expect for student handbooks and protocols for the fall. So that's our plan with that.
thank you, Dr. Anderson. So first, the report from Community Ed. Director Jenny Ebert will tell us all there is to know about Community Ed. Jenny?
As they're approaching, I'll just say thank you to the team members for being here today. Community Ed is truly a fascinating world, and Jenny and her team do a wonderful job of providing a lot of different types of opportunities and activities for literally every age level within the community. And we look forward to hearing that update and the work that they're doing, some of the data that they're tracking, and it's all in alignment with, of course, the Community Ed programming that we offer, as well as how that fits into the larger strategic roadmap of the district. So Jenny and team, thank you for being here, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Superintendent Anderson and members of the board. We are so happy to have the opportunity to talk about Community Ed. I've had opportunities to be in front of you before, and I am always so grateful to be able to share about the work that our team is doing in service to our community. It's a unique opportunity that we have in Community Ed, and want to talk more about it here today. Talk about what's new, some goals, fun things. So With that, I'll start. I am Jenny Ebert. I'm the Director of Community Ed, and I'll have my team introduce themselves as they come up, but since Michelle's next to me, I'll have her introduce herself now too.
Michelle Bedore, I'm the Director of Early Learning School.
Great. So we'll start the presentation by talking a little bit about who is Community Ed. We have a number of school board members that are new within the last year or so, and Community Ed is unique to Minnesota. We exist here in Wayzata to help our E12 plus students, families, and community to thrive and be successful in school and life. But we're unique in that there's just a handful of states that provide funding directly for Community Ed, and we use that funding to be able to be flexible and adaptable to what our community needs, and really focusing a lot about the out-of-school time activities, as well as within our early learning program. We are mandated through state statute to have a licensed director, which is myself, and Superintendent Anderson also holds a licensure, so we're lucky for that, and as well as to have a Community Ed Advisory Council. This council is made up of community members, of parents, caregivers, of wonderful community members like Interfaith Outreach, YMCA, City of Wayzata staff, as well as a current board member. That group helps to provide insight and support, help guide the work that we do as we continue to really be careful listeners to what our community wants and needs. We have about 300 full and part-time staff. This is an amazing group of people. They're all about service. We are a service group. Like we work directly with students and with families, and we do that in all of our school buildings. This embeddedness really allows us to be able to connect directly with our families and make programming super accessible for them as well. Additionally, we oversee the Wayzata Early Learning School, which Michelle will talk about in a later slide, and what makes our work important and helps us to be the best that we can be is really that focus on building strong relationships and making connections within our community. So you'll hear a little bit about that as we go into our goals. This is a brief overview of the work that we do in Community Ed. We're really focusing on how do we support our community to learn, to connect, to gather, and volunteer. This wheel highlights the wide variety of ways that we do that work. I think I've joked in this setting before that I could easily talk for 2 hours about Community Ed, and I could, because there's so many wonderful things happening in each facet of the wheel. You're gonna get the 30 or 40-minute version of it here today, so hold on. Briefly, I'll talk a little bit about funding. I believe I get to come before you guys in a couple of weeks to present my mid-year budget, so you'll hear more in depth about it. But just as a reminder, Community Ed is separate from the general fund. We're Fund 4, the Community Service Fund. We are supported primarily through fee generation. About 80% of our revenue comes from program fees and 20% from local levy and aid. That funding model really sets us up to be more like a small business or a nonprofit, which gives us a lot of flexibility in being adaptive to what we see our community needs and be flexible. Again, our work focuses on how we do that funding well. We think about how we best be of service to our community. We really think a lot about affordability and then sustainability in our programming. Because we have our own fund and we're separate from the general fund, we really need to be able to sustain our work in that way. So you've seen the graphic on the right before. I think our teaching and learning department has showed this several times. That really highlights how the work kind of comes together from a goal setting standpoint. So similar to where our schools set up site growth plans as well as our early learning school, our department also sets up goals that are in alignment with our strategic directions, equity commitment, and district operational plan. Our 2 goals for this year focus on 1, deepening community engagement, belonging, and connectedness for students, staff, and community. This ties closely to our strategic directions 1 and 2, which are 1 and 5, excuse me, to ensure high-quality daily experience for each and every student and to learn and improve from community engagement and strategic partnerships. Our second goal, to retain and develop district talent across all levels, aligns closely with strategic direction number 3, which is to recruit, hire, support, and develop and retain the highest quality staff. These goals are made in partnership with what we hear from our team and what they're seeing, as well as what comes out of the district operations plan to help guide where we go next. This is just a high-level highlight of some of the impacts of the work that we're doing related to our goals. Our goals are created in the fall. We work with our team, our leaders. We have about 20 managers and directors and coordinators that help us to then work individually with our programs to develop specific goals as subsets of these. We've been working really hard on a number of pieces and just wanted to highlight a couple of key things here for you tonight. From the early learning school standpoint, we were thrilled to be able to receive some new funding through voluntary pre-K. This funding provides free preschool for 20 students, school day, which is approximately 8 to 2. And it includes transportation if they live within the Oakwood boundary area. This is our only preschool program right now that we have transportation available to, so it eliminates some really important barriers for some of our kiddos and families. This really helps us to expand that connectedness under goal number 1. Under partnerships, we work closely with Interfaith Outreach to have scholarship opportunities through Great Opportunities. They have 325 scholarships year to date. Summer is a really busy time, so that number will go up, and it provides options for students who maybe wouldn't otherwise be able to participate in after-school and summer camp programming. We're also very grateful to Interfaith Outreach for their work around the school supply program, where 465 students receive school supplies this year, and we help to coordinate that through Community Ed. A couple other things to highlight: our volunteer club. That's our high school volunteer club. It's the largest club at the high school with 975 students right now. Their goals this year were really around having a high quality student experience, focused on connectedness and belonging. And so that's been part of the goals work of our manager. We additionally wanted to provide additional support for that program as it keeps growing. Having 1.5 staff was just not quite enough. So in connection with goal number 2, added a 0.5 to that work so we could really continue expanding that, not only support for students, but for community organizations. Another goal to highlight was with our literacy volunteer program. The goal was to have 75% retained. We were slightly above that. We have 153 community members that come into our schools and participate in our elementary schools to provide literacy support for over 300 students. And we know that having somebody who comes back year after year means that we have high quality tutoring support that we have for our kiddos. So that's a really important goal for us. We try to meet that retention goal by providing additional support and training for our volunteers and really making sure that they know and understand the impact that they're making. We also added some additional staff support in that area too, so we could again continue to really focus on having those high quality volunteer experiences. One of the areas I'm really excited about is within Wayzata Kids. Staffing and developing and retaining staff is really key to that. This is an area where we have a growing need. Every year of the 7 years that I've been here, it's a growing need. And we are now contracting with Radar Talent Solutions to do staff recruitment. We've hired over 20 staff through them since November and have taken 175 students off the wait list. I know. I feel the same way, Heidi. It's really, really amazing to be able to provide that support for our working families in our district. So and I'll talk a little bit more about Wayzata Kids and the work that we're doing later on in the presentation. And then the last highlight I wanted to share was around professional learning. Because we are service focused, investing in our staff is key to being successful in this. So we listed there some of the bigger trainings that we've done. It's not the full list of everything that we've done. But it gives you a feel of some of the work that we're doing to really invest in making sure that our staff are the best that they can be and we can have really high quality programming. Additionally, we have a variety of individual professional learning opportunities that our staff have taken advantage of as well. This is similar slides that you probably saw about a year ago when I was doing our mid-year review. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, but wanted to just have it for the board for reference for this presentation here tonight. This wheel highlights the wide variety of work that we do. And as we go into the presentation, Michelle and our team are going to talk more about some specific elements of this, but just want to highlight some of the really good work that's happening at the top of the wheel in our classes for adults and youth. There's, I don't know, my math is close, 1,000 opportunities that are happening for folks within our community. We have ABE happening on the second floor of our early learning school, which is a unique opportunity for our community, and really just, again, working on lots of different ways to engage staffing so that we can expand our childcare programming. On this slide, I'll highlight just at the top there is our facility rental program. Again, this is year to date. We have 105 user groups and individuals that are renting space. School board policy asks that Community Ed make our schools available to our community for use when not being used by during the school day or by school programming. This is a really wonderful piece of our job to invite people into our community to experience our amazing buildings and to give our youth additional opportunities to take advantage of our spaces. Things like our gyms, our green spaces, our dome, our arena. Those are the most popular rental pieces that we have, as well as our auditoriums. This has been a growing area for us as well, and because of that, we're able to reinvest some of that rental income back into our rental facilities with new carpeting and new technology and improvements in our auditoriums and new tennis court nets and things like that. So while this is an opportunity for our community to enjoy the space, it also is an opportunity to invest in our school properties as well. The early learning school side of this, there's so much good stuff happening there. Hundreds and hundreds of students that are participating in our ECFE, preschool, Connected 3, early childhood special ed and outreach programs. The numbers are there for your reference, and so I won't go through in detail, but just so very proud of the work that we do to really have this be the place where school starts for our youngest learners and to be a place where families can come and feel connected and supported. And with that, I'll hand it off to Michelle to talk about a little bit more about the work that we're doing at the Early Learning School.
Well, thank you for having me, School Board and Superintendent Anderson. I think I've done my song and dance here before, so this is a little bit of an abbreviated version. But within the community ed structure, the Early Learning School operates classrooms primarily for part-day preschool at Early Learning School with ECFE and parent education. And then we have 11 additional classrooms across the district in our elementary sites. We have 3 at Kimberly Lane and 1 in each of the other elementaries. These programs are operated by community ed, but we work seamlessly in close contact with special services and our teaching and learning department. Early learning is funded differently than K-12, except for VPK, so I'll get to that in a minute. But this is a cost to families, and so families pay tuition for their kiddos to come to classes at the Early Learning School or one of our elementary sites. We do offer a variety of preschool scholarships. One is school readiness, and the new one is VPK. So voluntary preschool is run just through the general fund, through the O1 fund, like a kindergartner or a first grader. So we generate ADM for each student enrolled, and we operate out of Oakwood Elementary, Early Learning School, sort of connected there. And the students who live in Oakwood attendance area and meet the scholarship opportunity requirements can get busing. They are bused on the regular elementary bus with their siblings, and we go and get them right off the bus. So it's a hand-to-hand delivery on both ends, and so parents need to be there to get their kiddos off the bus. We don't just let them off on the curb. So that has been a game changer for the 20 students that are enrolled that meet the scholarships. If they are enrolled in that program, but they do not live in Oakwood attendance, then they would need to drive them, but they can still access the scholarship. So that is new for us this year, and we just applied for continued funding for next year and asked for some additions. We'll see what we get. We're waiting for the legislature to finish their work before they know how much money they have to give. So we'll see what happens there. And then our ECFE is on a sliding fee scale. So each and every parent, when they register, can make that determination of where their income fits and how much they can afford to pay. And that program is offset by funding from the state. Our early learning team, we have a fabulous team of preschool teachers, early childhood special ed teachers, early childhood family ed teachers, assistants, paraprofessionals. We have a social worker, we have an outreach specialist, we have early learning managers, and we have, I think I talked about this last year, our outreach co-teacher that's going out into the community childcares, and she has been wildly successful, and she's so busy, she just is asked every day for a new site. So our community partners are really excited about that program, and we've found really good success with that. We are operating a building instructional leadership team, just like all the other buildings are, that is made up of all of the people listed in the top except for assistants and paras. So it's really a teacher-led group. and they are working on our site growth plan, and our goals are around social emotional and literacy this year, and we're using our Teaching Strategies Gold as our key point of data collection, and that will happen here at the end of the school year. We'll look at those final numbers and see if we made our goal. Our goal this year changed a little bit. We went with 100% of students will be at age level. In years past, we've done things like 80% or 90%, and we really had a robust discussion about we really want all kids functioning at age level when they leave our program at the end of the year. So we felt very strongly that we were going to shoot for 100% of kids to be at age level. So that was our goals for that. And I think that was the last of my slides. My colleagues take over.
Great. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about Wayzata Kids programming on behalf of Hillary Dish, who is our out-of-school time coordinator. She couldn't be here tonight, so she's filled me in on all the important things to share. Our Wayzata Kids Childcare is the largest school-age childcare program in our community. We are serving thousands of kids within it, within our summer and our school year programs. And as our community continues to grow, so does that demand for childcare. And as I mentioned earlier, having that support with Radar Talent Solutions to be able to expand our staffing has been an incredible resource to be able to continue to meet that need. Demand does continue to outpace what we're able to do, but we are growing. So a couple of numbers to note. For our summer program, for example, starting here in a couple of months, we have 400 more students in our summer program this year than we did 2 years ago. So that's pretty incredible growth that's happening over a really short period of time. From a school year perspective, we just wrapped up registration for the 25-26 school year. Again, adding more students to our program. We have about 200 more in the program next year than we did at the start of this year. And we still have more students on the wait list. So we will continue to work with Radar Talent Solutions. We hope to continue to have a really successful partnership with them and grow our program to continue to meet our growing community's needs. But with that comes a really important focus on maintaining a high quality program. When you grow at that rate, we're talking about kids and students, and so we need to be really mindful that we're offering really a safe program, a healthy program, and a place where kids can learn and thrive. So part of that means investing in our staff. The goals around the work that we do in Wayzata Kids this year is really on how do we support our staff and develop our staff. One goal was to create a professional learning community with our leadership team of about 14 managers and coordinator. And that we did. We were grateful for the partnership with Teaching and Learning to help us to kind of reframe what that PLC model looks like to have it work for our youth programs. And they're really focusing on how do they be better leaders as mentors and coaches for their staff, especially with all the new people coming on board. And then additionally focusing on leadership development of all of our staff at all levels within Wayzata Kids from a professional development standpoint, really wanting our staff to see themselves having opportunities to grow within their jobs, to be leaders with the students that they're working with, and thinking carefully about the professional learning that we're offering in that. Hillary and her team are working on creating a professional learning roadmap that they'll be looking to implement for the next year. So that's part of their goal work for this year. Again, that's our focus because while we're recruiting wonderful staff as part of this program, we also want to retain those staff and maintain really high quality staff in that, and investing in our team is one way to do that. So on that, I'm going to hand it off to Zach.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Nelson, Communications and Community Engagement Manager. I'm fortunate enough to work in a hybrid position in the Communications and Community Ed departments. So I get to do a lot of cool things, and I'm going to talk about the listening and connecting work that we do in Community Ed, as that's at the center of everything that we do. One way we do listening and connecting is through the Partners for Healthy Kids, which is a collaborative of local organizations that work to improve the social, emotional, educational outcomes of children and families in the community. Some of you have had the opportunity to come to some of those meetings. And there are about 30 different organizations that are part of the collaborative that meet and connect monthly to present and share the work they're doing in the community and share needs and resources to help each other in this work. And some of those organizations as part of the collaborative are Interfaith Outreach, IOCP, Relate Counseling, City of Plymouth, City of Wayzata, YMCA Ridgedale, and many more. So it's a really great group that connects once a month to do some of this work. As part of the PHK Collaborative, there are district staff who fill out random moment in time surveys where they're asked to just simply what are they doing in that moment, and as part of that, how they respond. Revenue is generated at the federal level. This was something that was started in the 90s. And then the money is then ultimately redistributed back to the state, county, and then local collaborative level in a formula that nobody really knows anything about. But this allows the district then to go through, the collaborative go through a process in which local organizations and district staff can apply for grants and really do some really cool work as part of that process. And over the past few years, in 22-23, $530,000 in grants were awarded. In 23-24, almost $700,000 in grants were awarded, and then we're on track for almost $600,000 this year. So it's a really great opportunity for organizations and staff to provide the services that are needed in our community. Another way we do listening and connecting work is through our district liaison committee, which again, many of you have had the opportunity to attend some of those meetings. This committee is a way for school, parent-teacher leadership at these school buildings to come together with district administration to promote an atmosphere of understanding and cooperation among those groups and act as a communication link for the effective sharing of information. And it's invaluable for us at the district level to connect with these parents and guardians and building leaders, and for us to listen and provide support that they can then take into their school communities and facilitate some of the work that we do, and provides, again, another opportunity for us to listen. This one thing we've been working on to connect with families is working on deepening our community engagement and connectedness within doing proactive work around marketing and communications with families in our community before they start the typical kindergarten journey. And Michelle talked about some of that work, but one way we're doing this is through our Connect at 3 program. And this is kind of our revamped, came out of early childhood screening and trying to connect with families around the age of 3 to make sure they have the resources that they need and feel a connection to the school district before they begin kindergarten here someday. This is done by capturing contact information via state census data that we use to provide resources and communication to families and offer them opportunities such as classes in our early learning program and early childhood family education, early childhood screening, and full and part day preschool classes. Another way we're working to improve our listening and connecting and is through the work we're doing to support the Welcome Center revisioning, and Judy's gonna do most of the legwork talking about that, but we're trying to be more proactive with kindergarten marketing and customer service, working to reach families through various modes of communication, including email, social media, printed materials, that will hopefully give them a sense of belonging before they set foot in our schools. And we're partnering with principals and office staff at our elementary schools to provide support in marketing and communicating incoming kindergarten events at the schools, culminating in our bus ride and information night that will happen in August. So.
Thanks, Zach. A lot of that work is so key to our goal number 1 around connectedness and belonging, to be able to hear what's going on and to listen to what the changing needs are, and then to be able to respond to them. And all those other areas of our work has just been really vital. I appreciate Zach and his dual role, which isn't always easy having 2 bosses maybe, but he does it well, and it helps us to do our jobs better. Before I hand it over to Judy, I'll just note, so on the wheel, new to the wheel this year is the Welcome Center. We were really happy to be able to add that to the work of community ed in the past year. As part of cost containment, there was some need for community ed to think about how we could support the general fund using Fund 4. And so we were able to do that through taking over the oversight of the Welcome Center and hiring Judy in her position and being able to fund that piece of it. Excited to be thinking about how do we support our community in this new way, as well as Dr. Anderson noted earlier in the year that one of his goals was around re-envisioning the Welcome Center. So we take that very seriously as the work that we're doing, and I'm really happy to welcome Judy to talk about what we've done over the last 9 months or so in this area.
Well, good afternoon, all. My name is Judy, and I oversee our Welcome Center. So a lot of this work, like Jenny mentioned, actually started before I started here in August. And it started with listening to our principals and various people that touch the work that we do in the Welcome Center of welcoming our families into the district. And two themes kind of came from some of that initial listening, including collaboration and customer service. So for collaboration, we strongly believe that the work that we do is done better when we partner with people across our district, with, for example, our school principals and our admin pros at our different school sites, thinking about how do we support the work that they do, especially as we welcome families and do that initial enrollment registration for them and doing that warm welcome over to their school site, which is where they'll build that long-lasting relationship with our district. So thinking about introducing ourselves, we're new staff at the Welcome Center, so we've done a lot of work to introduce ourselves to our school buildings, our admin pros, and think about how do we collaborate with them when it comes to things like kindergarten enrollment so that we're all on the same page in terms of how do we get those kiddos enrolled and their families excited about some of the upcoming events that we'll do over the summer and spring. With finance, communications, equity and inclusion, technology, there's been so much work that we've been able to process and get done over the last couple of months with them. Some examples include just learning. Like I mentioned, we're a new team, so it's been super helpful to have people with historical knowledge, people with different backgrounds, and that touch the work that we do from different angles to help educate us on the supports that our families need and the processes that we oversee. Also, we just had those attendance area adjustments go through. So a lot of the work in terms of how do we communicate that to our families, letting them know where their students are going to be next year, whether they were impacted or not by the attendance area adjustments, but also the back end work of processing all of that in Skyward, making sure that our data is correct so that when folks need to extract that data for the work that they do across the district, that it's ready to go. Also, we implemented a new software tool called Fresh Service in the fall. It's the same tool our technology department uses to oversee their processes when they get inquiries about support across the district. It's been super helpful for us because we're often communicating not just with families, but with professionals across our district that have questions for us or that we're collaborating with in one way or another. So being able to just have better oversight of that work, being able to see kind of the ebbs and flows of our work, and being able to use that as a strategic tool to keep us all on the same page. And it's also been super helpful for things like in the Welcome Center, we get a lot of frequently asked questions. So being able to have that consistent messaging, regardless of who's reaching out to us, of how do we respond and help. The partnership with our equity and inclusion group and team has been super helpful. Our 3 family liaisons have been super great in just giving us some really keen insight into how we better support our families. They have this unique role where they get to be in the community and hearing from families, whether that is at our schools or maybe even in the communities that they live in. So the feedback that they have given us has really helped in terms of how we re-envision our Welcome Center to best meet the needs of our families. We've talked about things like different family personas. So we know we have families that already have a kid or 2 in our school district, 2 families that are new to the country or maybe moving from out of state. And they also help us with just our outreach efforts because they are cross-trained in some of the enrollment processes. They will often call us and say, hey, I'm working with this family. We know we need to get them enrolled. We have this, this, and this. Isn't there anything I'm missing? And because they're with that family, they're able to close the loop with that and be able to get us what we need so that we can get that family to the next step. And then we also have weekly joint staff meetings that include our family liaisons, our Welcome Center team, as well as Jen from our finance team, to be able to just keep us on the same page as we go through each season of the work that we do. I think the one really unique and special thing about our work, just to kind of emphasize that collaborative effort or aspect, is while there is the yellow Welcome Center team, there's so many dotted lines and people that help us execute. So on the left-hand side, you'll see Solvay's team and our family liaisons. You'll see on the right-hand side, Zach and Amy and our communications team, as well as our finance team. The other part of that is customer service, which is really big to the work that we did. So some of the things that we've already been able to implement and change that we think have been super helpful include just thinking about, now that we're in the district service center, that's a new building for all the folks that are there, how do we make that a welcoming space for our families as they come in? Families come in on a walk-in basis. Some of them make appointments with us so that we know that they're already coming. And we want that to be a space that, regardless of if it's a parent coming in or a parent with their student coming in, that they feel welcome nonetheless. So some of the things that we did was in that lobby area, you might remember there used to be some high back chairs there, which the chairs were beautiful, but we couldn't see anyone if they were sitting in them. So just being able to switch that out for some low profile seating to make it just more approachable and welcoming. And then in the Maple Grove room, which is where we take families, it's that bottom picture on the right for actual enrollment help, putting in some picture books in there, putting in some coloring stuff, and then also having a space that is better utilized for when we need to sit down with families to actually do the paperwork side of things. We also have, in that first picture, you can kind of see Shirley. She is the one closest to the TV. Our Welcome Center team staffs the front desk. So that's super helpful when we do have families that walk in, already being able to have a welcoming, smiling face there to help them right away without delay. And then we've been doing a lot of work in reviewing our processes and practices for the Welcome Center, thinking about how do we make our processes efficient and meet the needs of our families. And some of the things that have come from that include simplifying our forms. Jonathan, who's on our team, helped us really change our paper enrollment form, which is just a paper version of our online enrollment, and make it something that's way easier for families to read through. We want to make sure that whatever is coming out of the Welcome Center, whether it's we're with the family going through it with them or we're not with the family, maybe they received a handout when they went to a school, that they can still easily navigate that and not feel lost in the mix. And we also take that same approach to our online enrollment form. And Zach mentioned creating materials to support our families. It was super helpful to have those materials during our kindergarten information night, to be able to have those tangibles to give away to families that are that hopefully will be starting with us this coming fall. Why we're doing this and some of the things that we've learned thus far. Our families are our customers. We really want our families to enthusiastically choose Wayzata Public Schools because they do have a lot of choice. So all of the improvements and changes and things that we continue to do is in service to getting our families super excited to be enrolled in our school district and to help them with that warm handoff from the Welcome Center to their school building. And that's where that collaboration comes into play. We're constantly in communication with our collaborators across the district to think about how do we do our work better, how do we help them in the work that they do. The families don't see all of that, but hopefully the result of it is a smooth process for them as they onboard into our school district. And this is work that we'll continue to do in terms of ongoing process improvement as we continue to gather feedback across the district.
So with that, I'll just close by saying I hope that this provided you some additional depth and understanding of the work that we're doing in community ed and how our work is connected to our goals and the broader strategic directions of the district. We're really here to make our community stronger and to support and listen and to be of service. We're excited about that opportunity every day. We're grateful for the many partners, including you all across the table from us as our school board, for helping us to do this work. In community ed, we know that we can't do it alone. We are completely reliant on all of our partners to be of service and to do this work the best that we can. So thank you for that, and I will open it up to questions.
All right. Thank you, Jenny, Judy, Zach, and Michelle. you guys do a phenomenal job under your leadership, Jenny. I think I've been on the board. This is my 4th year, and I have seen you only grow every year. So thank you for what you do. Any questions, colleagues? Comments? Yeah.
I'll just say a huge thank you. It's Community Ed is the place that welcomes and touches and creates our sense of belonging from children who are just born to our retired community members. And even in the presentation tonight, and all that you did to talk about our spaces and our enrollment processes and all of that, you really showed us the how of how Community Ed encompasses our 80,000 plus residents now. I don't quite know what it is. So that's a lot of people to connect with, and you're the perfect team to do it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's always wonderful to hear from you. I enjoy the presentations a lot because there's such wonderful information for us all to have and keep in mind the great work you all do. And it really just, it means a lot to us. And Judy, I'm particularly drawn to your quote, to make families enthusiastically choose Wayzata Public Schools. So thank you for making that decision for them so easy and so possible. Thank you.
You highlighted so many wonderful things, and the outreach you guys are doing is wonderful. And I hear so many things in the community of just what a great resource this is. Community ed in general. So thank you for all the work there and for coming tonight to share it. I had a question. Well, I have 2 questions. One's first a comment because I know I have children who do mountain biking, and I know that's like a community ed, high school, middle school partnership. It's, a different sport in that way. And I guess I just wanted to shout out that it's something you didn't highlight, but I really appreciate have these kind of maybe non-traditional sports as part of the high school experience. And I didn't know if there were other sports other than mountain biking that were part of that.
Yes, there's badminton, there's the Wabbits, which is disc golf. No, I'm not going to get it. Ultimate Frisbee, sorry. I need my full team here. So we do look for opportunities for sports that aren't part of the National High School League or the Minnesota High School League sports that students still want to participate, they want to be active, they want to be something similar. So that's where Community Ed can step in and help to fill that gap. And they can actually letter through us too, through the policy that you all approved, I think, last month. So.
And then I had a question about, it's about the literacy volunteers. It's really wonderful that you were able to retain that many volunteers. Was there an impact from the READ Act, as it applies to literacy instruction, or was it something else that, you were worried that we weren't going to be able to retain them?
It didn't really come out of a place of worry. It was just we know that we do our best work when we retain as many as possible. So we'll probably continue to have that goal for a couple of years and just try and up it even more, because the more that we can have people coming back, the better. We do have a number of people who are skilled, former teachers, retired principals, things like that, that are part of that program. And so those people especially are really important to us, that we want to just do all that we can to make sure that they keep coming back. I'm sure it doesn't hurt that the READ Act is out there and being talked about, and literacy is an important topic for a lot of people right now, as it is for us.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's really, I always feel really calm and at ease when I'm hearing you guys talk about everything you do in community ed, because like Sarah said, it touches so many people. Just the sheer number of people that you are servicing is incredible. And I just love hearing the growth that you have every single year. So thank you for being here. I do have a question because on one of the first cuts of the governor's bill this year, I heard you talking about funding and legislature and what we're asking from them. And I noticed that there was a line item that was in relation to community ed. And I'm curious to hear from you if is there going to be any impact to Wayzata Public Schools? Because like you said, a lot of our programming is fee-based plus state funding. And so if the state funding drops, theoretically, I would think fees are going to go up. So I'm interested to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so that's a bill that we're watching really closely. The beauty of that funding that we get through, or specifically for community ed, is that it gives us the flexibility to do the programs like the volunteer literacy program that isn't fee generating, right? It provides some additional revenue for us to do the volunteer club, to support the Welcome Center. And so if that funding were to go away, we'd have to figure out how we want to do that differently. There is language within that would allow the aid to switch to levy money. So you can, as a school district, then decide, do we want to make that funded through the levy instead? So if that were to go through, that's what Minnesota school districts would need to decide. If a school district decided not to do that, then yes, we'd have to look at how do we change our fee structure to support that work in other ways. So that's something we'll be watching carefully and working with our finance team on.
Do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for all the details. I have 3 questions. So first, and it's kind of, going to Sheila's question. So when we add new programs, how do you add those new programs? So for example, if there is a program that community is interested in, making it up, cybersecurity, right? So how do they bring that to you, or what is the process? And can it be a free program, or it has to be fee-based? So let's say there is a nonprofit who's focusing on cybersecurity. They want to come in, conduct sessions, and they're willing to do it on their own. Will we include them as a part of community ed, program guide, or how does that work?
Yeah, ideas come to us in a lot of different ways. It can be just from a conversation at a coffee shop with somebody to someone emailing our generic community ed email, or to reaching out to our team. At the easiest from this perspective, if people are listening in, I'd say email communityed@wayzataschools.org with your idea, and then we get you to the right person to vet that through. Because we have a lot of flexibility in what we do, we sit down and have a conversation. We learn about what the need is. We try and listen to hear what the demand is for it as well, and then whether it needs to be a paid or a free opportunity. We do have a number of organizations that want to provide the resource for free because they believe in what the information that they're wanting to share with our community. So then we work with them to figure that out.
Okay, so pretty straightforward then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I know I asked this question last time you were here. From challenges standpoint, or what would you ask community members to help with? And your answer was, hey, awareness around the pre-K program or early childhood program. Is that improving, or is that still the ask from community?
It is improving. It's some of the great work that Zach has been doing along with Judy and recruiting incoming kindergartners. We're certainly seeing some improvements there, but because there's always new people moving into our district, and we don't know if they have a birth to 5-year-old in that pocket, getting that awareness out as new people come to help share that information, that we're here to support them, whether it's through ECFE or preschool or through our screening program, Connect at 3. That really is an important part for us, is having people referred to us. We're trying to reach out and find them as well, but the more that we can have our community know that we exist and refer people to us, that helps in that kind of two-way street.
So that's good to know. It's improving. And my last question is, do you know approximately what is the percentage of participation which is non-school going, or pretty much everything overlaps with school-going families? Is there anyone, or is there a percentage where kids are not going, grandkids are not going to school, but communities engage in some of these programs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. From a youth standpoint, a lot of our programs are right after school. So naturally, it's the students at school that it's just really, you leave your classroom with your teacher, and then you're able to go to art or soccer or whatever it might be. But we do have a variety of things in the summer. And I have not pulled that number. And I'm not sure that we asked the question, but now I'm very curious.
Okay.
I love data, so
All right.
we'll see.
Yeah, and I was just curious because again, this is community aid, and obviously WYZATA adds so much in general for kids who are attending schools, but I was just interested in learning more about, what about the community where their kids or grandkids are no longer in school. So we can connect offline.
Yeah, I mean, community ed is available for everybody. So
Right,
whether you go to school here or not, you certainly can participate. On the adult side of things, there's a lot more flexibility on that side.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Jenny. I have a comment and a couple of other questions. you brought up the Minnesota State High School League. I know that cricket used to be a part of the community ed program. I don't know if it still is or not. They used to play at the Dome at Central Middle School in the winter. And so Minnesota State High School League, a senator from Albertville has introduced a bill. He has authored a bill which is co-authored by our representatives, Jenny Cleavorn and Christine Banner from our district. So they have introduced a bill where the high school league will probably be asked to introduce cricket as a program. So if that happens, will it benefit community ed or not? I don't know, but again, just want to bring that up. You talked about the Welcome Center coming under, if you look at the org chart, now it is under your leadership, right? Completely or at least partially. What about the funding then? You have a different source of funding under 04. I believe Welcome Center used to be under 01. Maybe Scott can enlighten us on that. So how do you transfer those funds to the 01? What kind of hurdles do you have to overcome, and does the state allow that?
Yeah, so the Welcome Center is funded through a couple of different funds. So Judy, for example, is supervised by me and funded through Fund 4. So her work is really focused on supervising that whole process of bringing our families in and supporting a smooth onboarding and enrollment. We do have 2 clerical team that are still funded through Fund 1. Of course, we work closely with Scott and his team too that supervise a whole nother component of the work with regards to enrollment and whatnot. But we do have flexibility within the community ed funding to be able to support work of the district in a variety of different ways. Judy would be an example of that. We have an auditorium manager that used to be funded through Fund 1 that was cut during cost containment that we now fund through community ed. It's the work that supports both community ed and the district is where we kind of look for there was that like perfect synergy to be able to be a supportive partner in that.
Okay. And then the second question is about the funding itself for 04, community ed, 80% come from fees, 20% from state and local contributions. Is there any federal funding that community ed would be affected by, because of what's going on, in the federal administration thinking of, dismantling the Department of Education? Will that affect community ed at all?
Potentially, the Partners for Healthy Kids funding that Zach talked about is generated through the federal government. So that's, $500,000 plus of grant funding that we are able to distribute within our community as within our district. I have a staff person who's funded through that. So that's an area that we're watching really closely. But for the most part, the rest of our funding is state funding.
So you'll have to basically just look at that, just like Heidi mentioned about that line item in the governor's proposal. So, okay. And that's all the questions I have. Anybody else have any questions?
Maybe just a couple.
Yeah, Chase.
I just want to share a couple things too. Thank you to the 4 of you for being here, and Jenny for your leadership and giving us a broad overview. Jenny mentioned my own connection to community ed, and I had an opportunity a few years back to immerse a little more deeply into it and learned a lot about it. And not that the 4 of you would need to hear this, but just for the general viewers, it's probably important to know that Minnesota has been a community ed leader since it started. I don't know, I think Wisconsin.
1968 in Michigan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota were sort of the 3 early leaders. And I think it's safe to say that Minnesota would be second to none in the nation for community ed. And frankly, I think our own community ed program in Wayzata would be second to none in the state. So much of that is due to Jenny's leadership and the team that she's assembled and the great work that they're doing. So we greatly appreciate that. The thing that I've always appreciated about community is they do things that we can't necessarily in K-12. There's flexibility and opportunities to develop different types of business models and deliver programs and services that maybe we can't do in the regular stream of funding for K-12 programming. They serve pre-K and adult learners, so literally birth to, senior citizen within the community, whatever the definition of that might be, but 0 to 100, so to speak, for ages and beyond. So I think that's really makes it a unique, complementary set of programming that really just sort of melts around the standard, what we typically think about as a school district is that K-12 component. all the things that community ed can do just really kind of melts around and supports everything else that is occurring, not only within the school district, but the entire community. So I think that that's really a unique part of it. The tentacles and connecting points to all of the youth sports and activities programs in the community really gets at just about all of our youth in one form or fashion. And it's a very busy, involved, connected, engaged community. And a lot of that is reflective of the community ed program. So thanks again for sharing the highlights and for being here with us this afternoon. I greatly appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Right,
Appreciate you all.
Yeah, thank you, all of you. All right. All right, so next on the agenda, we have the Finance and Operations Report, and Executive Director Scott Lesage. With his team, we present the revised budget for Wayzata Cafes. It could be Michelle, right? Yeah.
Anderson for allowing us to be here today to present the revision for the FY 24-25 Wayzata Cafes budget. As the board probably recalls from the general fund presentation, this is just the revised. So this is the time of year where we kind of dig through the budgets even more thoroughly. I know that Jack and Michelle go through them probably on a monthly basis, but it allows us to really kind of dissect them, see how our predictions were back when we were putting together the prelim before we knew how everything would shake out. So this allows us to kind of look at those, see how the year's going, and then forecast how it'll go. Sometimes also it can be a base for us to build next year's prelim budget. So obviously this will be a good and easy presentation for me and for you guys because I won't be talking a lot. I'll start the talking and then I'll turn it over to the two experts here. But I just wanted to give a shout out to both Jack and Michelle. They work really well together. It's a good collaboration between the two different departments. And I was disappointed to hear Michelle says she does like working with Jack more than me. I had passed that off to Jack, but I think that's a good thing. So without further ado, I will let them introduce themselves, their roles, and then kick off the presentation.
All right, good afternoon. Michelle Saganal, Director of Wayzata Cafes.
And Jack Stearns, I am the accountant for Wayzata Public Schools. So this first slide has been in a few of our presentations, and it's just to show that the food service fund is its own fund outside of the general fund, similar to community education. So its main revenue driver is the meal sales, and then it houses all of its own salaries, benefits, food, supplies, and equipment.
All right, so our 2025-2026 school year, even though we're here to present our revised budget for this school year, we are actively already planning for next school year. I think today is the day, like our commodities are due for next school year. So it is into already menu planning and what are we going to do and what are we going to source. So just looking very briefly to next school year, some things that are upcoming are infrastructure updates. Our high school is getting their freezer expanded. And because we are expanding that, that is also that's taking a cooler offline. So they are getting an additional cooler too built into some locker room space in the kitchen. High school salad and sandwich line that is being relocated so we can utilize its current area for just more hot food. And then the salad and sandwich line will be moved out to behind Expressway. And something we will be adding is paninis, so hot sandwiches, not just cold. So they will be doing sandwiches and paninis through like an Impinger oven that students can grab and also put toppings on if they would like. And then Oakwood Elementary will be getting a new rotating rack oven. So that is just replacing what they currently have because I don't know the age of the current one in there, but it has served us well. Menu recap of what we have done this year. We made a big focus on increasing our vegan choices. We did run into a little bit of supply chain issues with some of the products we did select, and that continues to be an area that we're working on and looking to improve for next school year. We decreased our added sugar at breakfast, specifically at our elementary. Something to note, we did get a dip in our participation rates because we did decrease that added sugar. So that is just something I did kind of expect. But we're continuing to look at, okay, like how can we still take our products that are lower in sugar that our students do want to see? So yes, that did go down a little bit, and we're working on bringing it back up while still keeping that added sugar down. We were incorporating more cultural foods onto our menu. We did student focus groups at East and Central. So we, the last 2 years, have tag teamed with Central on their Culture Week. So we work with Student Council. They taste test some different menu items. Some are repeat, like sambusas. You can't go wrong with those. This year we did pierogies. I'm trying to think if we did another newer one. I can't remember off the top of my head. But we taste test with the students, and then they mark it and help us present it to their student body. And at East Middle School, we just did a taste test with those students and got feedback and what they're looking at for next year. Pot stickers was the other one. And then lastly, we implemented elementary student choice days. This has been an extreme hit with our elementary kiddos. And one of those areas was just as it's been 5 years since COVID. So it was really our year to just really dig deep and make those student connections again, get in front of our students, which is where the middle school taste testing and continuing to expand that. But then our elementary student choice days was the other one. So 9 elementaries works perfectly because we have 9 months of school. And so each elementary gets an opportunity to pick the school lunch menu for the day. So we've had everything from mac and cheese pizza and ramen bowls to, your generic just pizza slice. So it's been really fun to see what they're choosing. And even they throw so many ideas up on the board and then they vote, but just seeing some of those ideas they put up on the board, it also gives us ideas to what to consider for possible menu items too. And then lastly, we have our farm to school grant this year. And then we did receive it for next year also. Much smaller amount compared to 2 years ago. So it's about $30,000 for this school year and next year, and we'll continue to apply for that grant as we go forward.
So this slide is just showing kind of the overall summary of the budget. A lot of work went into the behind the scenes of this. And I believe Michelle and I spent a lot of time going line by line in the budget, and most of the time it ended with me being very hungry because we talked a lot about food and produce and all that fun stuff. So overall, in the left-hand column is the preliminary budget from 24-25, and the right side is the 24-25 revised budget with the kind of the revisions we made in the middle. We'll go into more detail in the next few slides on how we came to terms with these revenue and expenditure revisions, but overall total revenues, we added around $328,000 to the budget this year. And then for expenditures, we added $331,000, really close to the same as we added to revenues. And as you can see, the bottom line there is showing the revenue over expenditures. So we are very much in line with the preliminary budget. Preliminarily, we were showing around $82,000, and for the revision, we're at $79,500 or $79,431. So really close to the preliminary budget. Truly, most of our revisions were just because of enrollment and the additional meals served. When we get more revenue for additional meals, we have to increase the expenditures due to staffing and food needs. So, and like I said, we'll talk about more fun with the revenue expenditures on the next few slides.
So very quickly, we always do our budget for the next school year based on what we currently know. So we did see an increase in our federal reimbursement rates for this school year. So that is another area that revenue upticked a little bit. For FY 2025 revised budget utilized, again, the number of school dates and reimbursement rates to determine the updated revenue. Something to keep in mind, and we'll talk a little bit, is I always budget for anticipating like 2 snow days within the school year because that does add an additional expense to the overall budget and we don't have that revenue. So the last year, did we have snow days? I don't remember, but we did not. So that is where you will see a little bit more revenue.
And I heard about it too from students, just so you know.
So that is why we're a little bit more on par right now too in our revised budget, is because we did have 2 snow days, which we did budget for. Now, if we did not have that, we would have more revenue in that area too. Our average daily participation for this school year so far, we're ranging from 80 to 85% at our elementary level, middle school 81 to 83, and then high school is 76, which might seem a little low for high school, but that is honestly, it is a very, very good range for high school students and what we see. And they have more choices. They do still have a lot of a la carte at our high school, so they might be choosing more of that route. And then also, as the school year goes on, especially the second half of school year, it's very common for high school to dip just a little bit more. They have PSEO, they have activities going on, state basketball, so they dip out and go to those events, and that's where we see in our participation. So. And then we are averaging about $91.50 per day in a la carte in meal sales. So that's second meals and a la carte purchase meals also. Anything you want to add to that one?
I don't think so. The only interesting thing as we were budgeting that I noticed was for the meal sales and a la carte sales, the average this year was $9,150 and last year it was $7,500. So a pretty large increase for the a la carte and meal sales from last year. Next is the expenditures. So when Michelle and I looked at expenditures for the preliminary budget, the contract hadn't been finalized for Wayzata Cafes yet. So we were being a little bit conservative with our budgeting for salaries and benefits. But then when the contract did get finalized, so for the revised budget, we were able to utilize current staffing as well as the approved contract to really kind of pinpoint where those expenditures were going to end the year for 24-25. As for produce, we did spend more money on produce this year, and we were budgeting the same just because of the increased meal sales. We knew that we'd be spending more money on the produce, especially with the elementary student choice days.
And something to add for our produce too is when we got our larger farm to school grant 2 school years ago, we started using more Revolve greens, which you probably see in the grocery store. Our high school specifically went to majority of that product, and we just kept going with that product, but we didn't have the farm to school reimbursement rate grant to offset that cost. So that is another area it came to mind afterwards. It's like, oh, we're continuing to use the Revolve greens, which aren't covered from the farm to school grant anymore, but we want to continue to utilize those salad greens.
And then the final budget area that we revised for food service or Wayzata Cafes was the other expenditures. And this is just where we have all of our repair and maintenance expenses, supplies, uniforms, all of that fun stuff. And again, as we're buying more food and serving more meals, there's going to be more repairs needed and more maintenance on the ovens and freezers and such. So that's why we added some budget there, because we were seeing some increased costs. And then finally was just the snow days that Michelle had mentioned for the expenditures. So on this final slide is just a trend of our fund balance for Wayzata Cafes over the years. As you can see, in 2021, that's where it kind of took that dip because of COVID, and then we've been really right-sizing and getting to a really healthy spot for the fund balance. As a nerdy accountant, I'm very excited because we finally hit the point where we have 3 months of operating expenses in the fund balance, so that's super exciting to me and hopefully everyone else. And then additionally, now that the fund balance is so healthy, there's a lot of planned projects in the future for 25-26, especially at the high school in terms of the salad and sandwich line that Michelle was mentioning, as well as freezer space. So we're really excited for what's to come with Wayzata Cafes now that we do have such a healthy fund balance.
Perfect. And I just want to add again, thanking Jack and Michelle, especially Michelle. This tells a story too. She's been here the whole time through the pandemic, and just like Community Ed that just presented, saw her fund balance be decimated and didn't have a lot of say or choice in it, and runs a fantastic program, and it's really elevated. And just like we went through the facility study and demographic study this fall, I think it's sometimes easy to forget what goes on in the background. Michelle has dealt with, obviously, our increased enrollment happening in all of our buildings, and she just has to make it happen because kids need to be fed. So she's done some really strategic things with adding lines, redoing areas over the last few years. And going with satellite kitchens, which it's honestly very impressive how they move food around the district. And as Dr. Anderson has said several times, it's the biggest restaurant in Plymouth and Wayzata. So they do a pretty phenomenal job with all of it. And then on top of that, the free meals came into place, and obviously participation increased substantially, but freezer space and storage space were not part of that bill. So they utilize closets in different ways and maximize freezer spaces. So I just really want to give kudos to Michelle. I mean, she oversees a team of about 100 people. It is not a small operation at all. So she does an incredible work, and the board and the community should be very proud of her and her team. So perfect. Thank you, Michelle.
I did bring muffins because I believe there were some that have tried them and some not, and I want everyone to feel included, so I will give them to Amy, that you can try homemade banana chocolate chip muffins that we've just been continuing to make, and really it helps us also utilize all those bananas, especially when a site calls and they're like, oh, my bananas are brown, and that's how they were delivered. Now we're just making those into the muffins, but you can find Amy, but promise not to tackle her.
All right, thank you. You're done, right? Okay, sorry. Thank you, Scott, Jack, and Michelle. Can't wait to eat those muffins. And well, Amy, you have them, right? I know. Yeah, I know you control them now. I know. Any questions, comments for the three of them? Yeah, Dan.
Thank you so much for all the wonderful information. I'm glad to hear their meal participation rates are high, kids are fed, they're eating. That's always just really great information to hear. And just to kind of tack on or add on with the conversation over farm to table grants. It's unfortunate to hear that those have gone down. Melinda and I were at the Capitol today at the AMSD conference, and they said those dollars will be declining. So it's unfortunate to hear, but I know you guys are making the very best of a different situation this year. My question, I believe, Jack, you touched on this briefly. Speaking to our monthly operating costs, you said with the projected fund balance that's about 2 months worth of operating costs. Would that be fair then to say that $1.25 million is about what we're talking per month?
So sorry, I 3 months of operating. So right around like $825,000 is where we're operating monthly for Wayzata Cafes. So the 2.53 million gets us just above that. So that's really exciting.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I happen to be involved during negotiations. That's why I might be asking some additional questions, because I learned from there. I learned that, yes, you are doing, it looks like you're operating like a restaurant, a big, huge restaurant. At the same time, please clarify, how does it work, high school and a la carte? So you don't count, a la carte doesn't count under, how do you count?
Yeah, correct. So a la carte is all of the additional purchases that a student can make. We take every opportunity to try to make the items in a la carte count as a reimbursable meal. But all like our grab and go salads and sandwiches are in a la carte, and those are all reimbursable, meaning they qualify under the a free meal. There are some items such that we offer at breakfast and then sell in a la carte, like bagels and scones. So a student can purchase that for for the price, but that is not part of like a reimbursable lunch meal. So they do have opportunity to buy extras that aren't part of a lunch. And then you have your snacks, protein bites and hard-boiled eggs, and there are some baked snacked items too.
I know that you go above and beyond trying to make that waiting lines are not that big, and obviously, but at the same time, high schoolers also don't have that much of a break. Can it be that kids are choosing because our lines are quite busy, and then in order, high schoolers would like to eat, obviously quite a bit of them are involved in activities.
Yeah, that's a good question. And something we did add in a la carte in Expressway 2, we added 2 new grab and go reach-in units, and one of those is hot. So we did add grab-and-go hot items in a la carte too to help with line speed, and those are all reimbursable meals too. So Expressway is a good area that the students just flow right through that room. So we did add a little hot option out there too, and it rotates between a pizza or chicken wings, some of their favorites. So we did see the lines go down a little bit on the main lines because they were eating in the grab-and-go hot area in Expressway. So, but there, it could be very well that a student is choosing to maybe eat a bagel over, a full reimbursable lunch.
And one more question. Would you be able to explain that 3% in salaries and benefits raise? Is it additional to what we already did this summer?
No. So when we first did our preliminary budget, we had budgeted similar to prior year and prior year staffing, knowing that once the contract was released, we would be revising the budget to be, similar to what the contract release was. So I think it was 5% was the first year. I can't remember the exact percent, but I think it was right around 5 for the first year.
It was 5 for 5. So does it mean that we raised 8%? No, how does it work?
So we did a COLA increase on top of that. So we used prior year staff, we did projected staffing, and then we did a COLA raise when we did our preliminary budget. So then the 3 is just kind of the difference between the 2% we budgeted as well as the additional piece, which it was 3. So, and then I think the exact number was like I rounded, but I think the exact number of our salary and benefits was 3.6% difference from preliminary. So that kind of bridges the gap.
And I would also add in there, you had additional staff too that would have driven that up. So it's really normal practice that we do, especially when they put the budget together too. We look at what is current, we factor in an increase, and then like Jack said, obviously that 3% gets boosted up because she did add staff as well. So they're looking at overall aggregated costs. They're not looking at individual by individual.
I was thinking the description, you were saying that you were utilizing the same amount of staff. One of the sentence was saying, salaries and benefits utilize current staffing and the approved contract increase. So
yeah, sorry, I probably could have worded that differently. So current staffing is just where we are currently, which included all the additional staffing. Yeah. At preliminary, we did a projected staffing. I think the current staffing is higher than what we projected originally. So there's that.
So it happened because you had to hire more staff, am I right, Ben?
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. So I do our staffing based on what we're projecting for student enrollment for the next year. And then depending on, how big, what the school is going to get, I go more on the conservative side until I actually see the students coming through our lines, and then I'll add more labor to adjust as needed.
So it's because of increased staff.
Yep. Yes, correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to note, that was probably a chunk of it was at our high school this year to help them with that, with the volume of meals.
So thank you for the details and thank you for muffins. That would have been my first question, but thanks for clarifying. What are you finding around food wastage? Is it manageable? How are we doing on that?
On the food waste?
Yeah.
I can tell you what I see that would probably be more the buildings and grounds side. From our perspective, when we serve our students, anything that's left over on the line, we reuse that we're able to for food safety. But as far as like what's on the student's tray and going into the trash, that's a whole nother ball game. I know it is a concern, just because students, they may not have enough time to eat what they're given, or high school, some days might be a little bit longer serve time. So I would say it probably is a concern. Waste is always a concern because of that area. We try to do what we can to reduce it. Things that can be reused or saved, that will be taken. But it is probably, I would say it's always a concern.
Sure.
Just because you think of the time they get to eat and what you take at home, it is hard. You're trying to feed that many students in the short amount of time.
So that plus everything else that goes around Wayzata Cafe. And I apologize if I missed that email, but Similar to community aid, are you guys also partnering with communications team to talk about successes and any help we need from community and so on?
Yeah. We started our Instagram and Facebook this year, so go follow us. But we do manage that, but we partner with communications frequently. Depends on the year and how much I need to partner with them and what's going on. But we do partner with them always at the beginning of the year. This year, thankfully, it's been quiet, knock on wood. But we'll partner with them when needed and communicate out important information. A lot of that comes at the beginning of the school year.
Okay, okay, so that's great. Yeah, and I think I wanted to take this opportunity to share one story. So in one of the social functions, I met a small girl, and she came to me, obviously her parents coached her, and she came to me and she said, I want you to change pancakes. I don't like what you served this year. My friends don't like it, and last year it was awesome. I'm like, okay, and I was planning to reach out to her, but something changed, and I think you guys reverted back to the original recipe. And next time when I saw her, she actually drew a picture with her friends eating pancakes at, in school, and she was thanking me. So I sent that picture to her saying like, hey, you deserve this more than any of us, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that is a fun story.
Yeah.
And that's a fine example of a product that we had to take as a substitution and, not our favorite. But I love to hear that student feedback too, because it just reassures us that what we're doing is working. But yeah, it's cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just to follow up on that, I think of all of the things that like my own kids' friends come to me about because they know I'm on the school board, food is the number one. They're just always, either liking something or not liking it. It's just such a real focus of kids, on a daily basis, which, maybe teachers are not excited to hear, but lunch is like the favorite time of day for all kids. So I appreciate your, the job you have to do to you can't please everybody, but you do a pretty good job. I think, for the most part, my kids love the food. I appreciate your focus on finding more vegan options. I know people, for many reasons want vegan options, one of which is just dairy allergies or lactose intolerance, and just having those options and making it more accessible, especially with the free lunches now, to let more people participate is really, I'm grateful for that focus. And I know we have more you could do, but like you said, there's supply chain issues, and hopefully those, we can find a system going forward. I had one question about the slides. There was the average daily spend, I think it was, and it was up from last year. It was like 9,000, and you said last year it was 7,000 and something.
Yeah, so the meal sales / a la carte average so far this year is the 9,150, and last year it was about 2,500 less, so right around 7,000.
And you probably don't know exactly why. I mean, I'd imagine that part of it is increased enrollment, but also maybe with longer lines because of free meals, students are choosing not to wait in those lines and just getting a la carte. And I didn't know if you had a better idea of why that was so much higher.
I had not touched our a la carte prices for the last few years. Just when I started, I felt they were a little bit on the high side, and with COVID and everything happening, so I went through and I did raise prices to be more in line with the percentage that we want to see for a la carte, or the upcharge that we do to cover the labor and the staff that goes into making it. So I would say that's probably a chunk of it, is I did go through with a fine-tooth comb and raise those prices a little bit because I had not touched them in 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
So I have, first of all, thank you for all that you do for the kids with their food and breakfast, lunch. It's not easy. I worked in those cafeterias during COVID, so I could see firsthand how difficult it is. So let me follow up, continue with the Sheila's question. So it's a dichotomy, right? You have average daily participation increasing, which means that I'm assuming then that there are more kids now going on the free meals, in the free meals line. Is that correct?
More kitchens in.
More kids.
More
going
kids,
into the
correct.
free meal.
Yes, yeah.
So with that in mind, how does the meals and a la carte revenue increase when more kids are going to the free breakfast, free lunch line? Help me understand that.
Yeah, so it's a variety of things. We do see a lot of students buying second entrees. So, they are receiving that first meal at no cost. So parents, are maybe like before with when meals were at a cost, they might say, okay, you have $5 to spend. They might still say you have $5 to spend, but now that's going to more items, not just the meal sales. So it is second entrees. It is students going through and purchasing the additional items. And then, like I said, it was with the increase of what we do charge for some of those items.
Okay, so does that mean that the kids bringing home lunch has gone down quite a bit? They're eating now at the free meals, plus they're spending more money on the meals and a la carte.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I should know this. I apologize, I don't. There is a policy for the fund balance for the general fund. The board has set a requirement of 5 to 7%.
Mhm.
Is there a policy which says you have to have a certain fund balance for the Wyzetta cafes?
I
That you
don't know
of?
of a policy off the top of my head. I know, like, once we hit 3 months operating expenses, the Department of Education will actually start reaching out to us and say, okay, you need a spend down plan. They want to see us start spending. They want us to be around that area, but they don't want it to grow too big. So the Department of Education will start reaching out to districts if they have a fund balance of 3 months operating expenses or more. And they will ask, like, what are you doing? Because they want to see those, that revenue go back into the facilities and the kitchens. So they will ask, like, what are you doing to improve your areas, replacing equipment, expanding. So they will start following up on that once they see that fund balance reach that point.
So they act like your board, basically, instead of us acting as the board to control or want the fund balance to be a certain amount.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last question I have is about vegan meals. We have you have done a lot for that, and I appreciate it. But overall, in general, is the vegan meal more expensive, less expensive, or about the same as any other meal?
It depends. And when people are following a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, some people want to do very whole foods. They want to just do the fruits and the vegetables and like beans, legumes. Other people want to really mimic what other people are eating. So for example, they want a vegan burger or a vegetarian burger, which those are the items that tend to get more expensive. So when you're recreating something that's, might be the center of the plate to look similar, that is somewhere that you can see an increased price. But then also on the flip side, if you're eating legumes instead of ground hamburger, that will most likely be more affordable, cheaper. So it's a balance, and that's just how we plan all of the menus, vegan or vegetarian or all of the above, all the choices. It's all a fine balance of more expensive entrees and then more reasonable price entrees.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Any questions, comments? No, if not, thank you so much. Yes.
I just share one thing.
Yeah, hold on one
Yeah,
second.
sorry to.
Say something. You want to say something, Pat, first? Oh.
Dr. Anderson.
No, I was going to say thanks for being here this afternoon, and thanks for presenting to the board and giving them some updates. It's really a pretty incredible enterprise when you stop and think about all the meals that are served. And I'll reflect back to some of my former days as a principal, which I spent a number of years in that role. And one of my favorite things to do was spend time in the lunchroom. I know it seems kind of ironic thinking of desiring and looking forward to spending time in a middle school and or a high school lunchroom. But I want to compliment not only the, all the work that goes into the food prep but just the ambiance that gets established. So oftentimes I'll go up to the high school and just have lunch in the cafeteria. First of all, it's a beautiful space, and it's just fun to see the kids interacting, and that we've created, I think, a really nice environment there for them. And you never really know what might happen when you're in there. And I recall very fondly one day, a girl came up and said, "Do you want to join us at our table for lunch?" Sure. So I went over and sat at this table of, 8 or 10 or 12 students, and just had the most delightful conversation and had a chance to ask them a lot of questions. And they shared what they loved about their high school experience and their school experience. And you could just tell it was a time that they looked forward to each day, and engaging with their peers and yeah, it was just really fun. So I just wanted to share that story and to thank you for not only preparing food, but working with principals and the staff to help prepare a quality environment for kids to spend that time in, and that didn't go unnoticed there. So anyway, it's fun. It's a good hangout. Thank you.
Perfect. And just finally wanted to thank them again and thank David for being here tonight. It just kind of shows the collaboration and mixing people's expertise and knowledge together to put together good presentations and make sure our numbers stay in line. And also just a reminder, the board tonight's just the presentation. So we won't be asking for approval of the revised until the April 14th meeting. So a little bit of time. So you've got some time to ask questions. And we did that purposefully. So, and we'll try to do that with other things as well. So in the meantime, feel free to reach out to Jack, Michelle, or myself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We will be ready on April 15th, so 14th rather. Yeah, Valentina, you have a question? Okay.
At this point, you sold to me this menu. I would like to go to high school and try this food. It sounds so good. Yeah. It would be nice to go and try.
We can still get those muffins, right? Okay, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you again, yes. This completes our work session for this evening. There will be a special meeting this coming Wednesday, March 26th at 4 p.m. The next school board regular meeting will be held on Monday, April 14th. The time is now 5:32 p.m. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education work session for Monday, March 24th, 2025 is adjourned.